All right, everyone, this is my April wrap up, and it is too beautiful outside to spend time inside talking about these 13 books. So I hope this is like the quickest wrap up ever. Didn't even put on makeup. I got my sunscreen on. I'm like ready to be outside. Let's go so I can go outside. As ever, I'm going to start with all of the books that I reread. And now April, I reread a ton of books. So again, I'm not going to talk about these rereads too much. All of these were basically favorite books of mine that I read for comfort and to help me fall asleep at night. So let's just talk about them. And of course, we got Garth Nix's Abhorsen. This is the third book in the trilogy. And this helped me fall asleep this month. I love this series. And there you go. That's all I'll say. Then I read, again, The House in the Cerulean Sea. Now, wait. This time is a little different. I made my husband read it with me, and if you need a review from my husband, he cried super hard with me as we were reading this. We were listening to it together in the car, and we both sobbed our eyes out. So if you want an endorsement, there it is. If you want my further thoughts on this book, I also have a 20-minute video where I discuss The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune in depth. So check that out if you're interested. And then I read Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This is a book that I just picked up on a whim. I saw the spine on my shelf and I was like, I am having so much fun tabbing and annotating some of my favorite books, so I just decided to pick this one up. I do have a vlog where I discuss this book in detail, but just know this is a favorite romance of mine. It is so precious. I had so many feelings, and if you're looking for some bi-gay romance, it's just so perfect for me. This is a perfect book. Perfect romance book for me. Again, another reread. Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. I read Get a Life, Chloe Brown last month, and again, tabbed the crap out of this little romance book, and I just had such a great time. I actually enjoyed this book better upon reread than I did when I initially read it. I initially was not super invested in Zephyr, our main character, our main male protagonist, but in this reread I really connected to both of the characters much more, and I just loved this book. If you're looking for some steam and some cuteness, look no further than Talia Hibbert and the Brown Sisters trilogy, if I'm being honest. And then I read the Diabolic trilogy in its entirety. I also have a review and a vlog up for this, so I'm not going to talk about this too much, but that includes the Diabolic, the Empress, and the Nemesis. And so if you're interested in really detailed thoughts on this young adult sci-fi series, I again have a video where I do a vlogging section and then a review section at the end of the video. I really enjoyed this series, and I'm considering like rereading it. So this is definitely a series that I would like to revisit in the future. So that's a pretty big win for me. If I'm willing to keep the copies and reread the series, it's really high up there on some of my favorite books. So that is all of the books that I reread. Oh, and to clarify, I reread the Diabolic and the Empress, and the Nemesis was new to me. Those are all the books that I reread, and now let's get into the new books to me. So the first category, we're going to talk about nonfiction. I only read one nonfiction this month, which is a little disappointing for me. I would like to read like 1 or 2 per month, but this one I did particularly enjoy, and that is A Terrible Thing to Waste, Environmental Racism, and its Assault on the American Mind. Again, I have a vlog where I read 50% of this book, and I had a lot of trouble with remembering the name of this book for some reason. I just couldn't get it in my head. And this is about pollution and how corporations and the government intentionally pollute minority neighborhoods. And how that pollution and the different types of chemicals and hard metals that are polluted by these industries and these companies directly impact the brain and our intelligence. And so it's very, very interesting. I ended up giving this book 4 stars out of 5. And really that was only because of the construction of the novel. The chapters are really long. So there are only 8 chapters in this like 350 page book. So the chapters are quite long. So it was hard for me to break up the chapters into kind of bite-sized chunks. And so that is just a personal preference for me. But the content and the way that the author wrote this information was really well done. It was just that one piece that I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. So highly recommend this book. All right, my dog just knocked over the camera, so if this is a little crooked, blame Hiccup. All right, thriller horror books, let's go. So the first book, unfortunately, I decided not to finish, and that is Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado. Now, I picked this book up because I read Carmen Maria Machado's memoir and really, really loved her writing. I thought her writing was fantastic, and the way she used horror as a genre in her memoir was really interesting and really different. And so I wanted to pick up her actual horror fiction, and this is like a short story collection of horror stories. And honestly, this was just kind of boring. I really couldn't connect to any of these stories. When I think of a horror novel, I want to feel spooky vibes. I want to feel creeped out, and I ended up I got about 40% into this. I read like 3 or 4 stories, and none of them made me feel spooky. None of them made me feel much of anything, to be honest. They weren't very scary, and I just was kind of bored. By the time we finished the story, I was like, okay, let's move on to the next one. So I just decided, you know what? Maybe we'll read one of Carmen Maria Machado's full-length novels and try that. Maybe the short story format just didn't work for me. Let's just keep moving and talk about the other book in this category, and that is The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. I loved this. Absolutely loved it. I also vlogged my reading experience with The Echo Wife, and so you can check out that video as well. This, I would say, is a thriller, but is also sci-fi. So I really could have put it in 2 different genres in the format in which I choose to talk about these books for wrap-ups. But this is a story about a woman who has developed cloning technology, and her husband cheats on the main character with her clone. And then the clone kills the husband. So it is very intense, it's very dramatic, and it's pretty short. It's only about 280 pages. So I highly recommend this book. If you want further thoughts, check out my reading vlog. Last category is actually romance. I didn't read any fantasy this month that wasn't already new to me. I really didn't read much, you know, in my typical genre. So this is a very interesting reading month for me. So let's talk about the 4 romance books I read / contemporary, because this first book was marketed to me as a romance and it wasn't. And that is Serena Singh Flips the Script by Sonia Lally. Now, this is not a romance. I picked it up from my library and it was in the romance category. And I saw this beautiful, you know, brown woman on the cover. She's got a neck tattoo, and from the title, I was like, okay, it's about this woman and she's either like a writer or something, and she's, you know, turning her life upside down. And I was like, okay, like I'm into it. And that's really not, it's not really a romance at all. It's more about this main character who is, her name is Serena, obviously, and she's a graphic designer, and she's in her 30s, and it's about her feeling lonely and, you know, realizing all of her friends are kind of in different life stages than she is. They all are married, they all have children, and she hasn't really felt connected to her friends in a long time. So this is about Serena trying to date, but more than anything, it's about her trying to make friendships as an adult, career-oriented woman. And the friendship in this book is beautiful, and the third act conflict has to do with the friendship. It doesn't have anything to do with the romance. So as a contemporary, this is a really good contemporary. Objectively speaking, this was really nice as a contemporary, but I don't like contemporaries. I wanting more cutesy romance scenes of her dating, or, you know, some steamy scenes with her and her partner, and there was none of that. She does end up with a man at the end, but it's more of a consequence of her finding more about herself. So I ended up giving this a 3.5 stars, which is still pretty good for me as a contemporary. It just wasn't what I wanted it to be. I wanted that romance. I want that cutesiness, you know, the emotional connection to a romantic partner. That's what I want in a romance, and this just didn't have that. So let's just keep moving. I read 2 Alicia Rye books, the first being The Right Swipe and the second being Girl Gone Viral. So The Right Swipe is about Rhiannon, I can't say that, and she's a CEO of a dating app, and the, you know, male lead is named Samson? And the male lead is named Samson, and they actually work for rival dating app companies, and it's kind of an enemies to lovers / second chance romance for these two. They've, you know, had a fling in the past, and then they kind of get reconnected. And this was cute. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it was fantastic. I just thought it was cute. There were some steamy scenes and some emotional scenes as well. However, I felt that a lot of the conflict was very one-sided. Rhiannon has a lot of trauma, a lot of trauma that she is working through, which I think is done really well. But a consequence of that is that I didn't feel really connected to Samson. I was really rooting for Rhi to work through her problems and work with Samson to, you know, overcome the obstacles of her life and her emotional baggage, really. So I just felt that the story was really one-sided towards Rhiannon, and for me personally, having so much trauma to work through didn't make this very cute to me. It was pretty intense emotionally for me, watching Rhi struggle so much to, you know, open up and you know, move past some of these things that have happened to her. And like, I don't mind when characters in general in romance have things they need to work through, but this was just really intense for me. I want something a little bit more lighthearted, personally. So I ended up giving this 3 out of 5 stars. Still a very good choice for me. However, the second Alicia Rye book, Girl Gone Viral, was super cute, way cute. Not very steamy at all, which is why I gave it a 4 out of 5, but it really upped the cuteness factor, which is why I particularly enjoyed it. So we're following Katrina, who is actually a friend of Rhiannon, and Katrina is a sweet lady, and she's very wealthy. She married a very prolific jewelry maker from India, and he left her a lot of money, so she is basically like a philanthropist, and she invests in Rhiannon's company, so, which is how they know each other. And this is about Katrina and her bodyguard named Jazz, and them falling in love. So what happens that kicks this whole plot off is Katrina is in a coffee shop, and Jazz is on the other side of the coffee shop, like keeping tabs on people walking in. And this random guy sits down at Katrina's table and starts talking to her, and Katrina's like, oh, this is kind of nice, like having just like a normal conversation. Katrina has a lot of social anxiety, so she's trying to, you know, spread her wings and interact with, you know, strangers. And so she's like, oh, this is going really well. And then the guy asks her on a date, and Katrina's like, oh, thank you, but I'm not interested. Like, thank you so much for asking, but I'm not interested. And the guy's like, cool, peace out. And what happens is there's a couple next to them at a different table who are like live tweeting the conversation and actually making up lies about what Katrina and this stranger are saying, and saying like, oh, this is such a cute, like, meet cute. And what ends up happening is there's the couple next to them actually take Katrina's picture with this random guy, and the story blows up. And Katrina, being a very socially like private person, is really floored by this tweet thread blowing up, and so she and Jazz like need to run away because she's afraid she's gonna get doxxed. So they go to his family home out in the country to kind of get away from it all, and a romance ensues. And it's great. I really liked it. And again, this does have an element of Katrina working through some of her past issues, but also Jazz has very, you know, not the same issues, but I felt that this was a little bit more balanced between the two main characters. I thought this was cute. There was like a tiny bit of steam, but not very much. So I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked this one. And there is a third book coming out later this year, and I will be reading that. All right, last book, and my favorite romance I read this month was The Roommate by Rosie Danan. Now, I hate this cover. I think this cover is so horrible. I really don't like this cover, and the reason I picked it up is because I've been following a new to me booktuber who recommended it, and so if you've heard of Chandler Ainsley, she's really popular. I don't know why it took me this long to find her channel, but she recommended this book, and as she was talking about it, I was like, this is something that I'm really interested in. And I read it, and I loved it. So The Roommate, the whole premise is that this young woman is in love with her best friend, and her best friend says, hey, move across the country to California with me and be my roommate. And our main character, Clara, is like, oh my gosh, this is my chance. I'm finally gonna get a chance to be with him. And so she moves across the country for this guy, and the guy's like, actually, my band is going on tour, so you're actually gonna be living this summer with this random guy that I found on Craigslist. So peace out, bestie. And then he goes off and is absent for the book. Hiccup knocked over the camera again. And so this is about Clara, our main character, our main female lead, and Josh, who is the random roommate, getting together, basically. And Clara is this really uptight, privileged, wealthy woman, and Josh is an adult entertainment. I'm trying to phrase this in a way so my nephew can watch this, but I don't think there's a way to talk about this book without being explicit. So Josh is a porn star. So it's about Clara meeting Josh and kind of having her world like turned upside down, because she thought she was going to be with that other guy and, you know, get to know him and actually get into a relationship with him. But she ends up falling for Josh, and not just falling for Josh, but actually like coming to care about the porn industry and how like messed up it is in terms of like greedy and capitalistic and manipulative it can be. And she actually like really starts to care for like the working conditions of these sex workers. And so this book was steamy, first off, because we got porn stars. I mean, come on, steamy as heck. This was really sweet. These characters actually do have really good emotional vulnerability with each other at times, but this was also super duper sex positive and sex worker positive. And that was something that I didn't know I needed, but it was so welcome. This is also casually queer and casually diverse, so they interact with a lot of other people in the industry who are on the queer spectrum and are POC, and it's just really appreciated. Yes, the two main characters are hetero and white, but it still had those elements that I was looking for, like some gay people and some POC. I just really enjoyed this book. I ended up giving it a 4.5 and really a 5-star because I just really appreciated the discussions around sex work and the industry in general and being so sex positive. And on that note, I'm gonna leave it here. Anyway, if you take away anything from this video, I highly recommend The Roommate by Rosie Danan and The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey, and any of the books that you see behind me, really. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna go outside now, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!